All right. Good evening, everyone. It is the 23rd of November 2013. It's 7 p.m. here in the UK, 8 p.m. Central European Time, and 2 p.m. Eastern Time in the States. This is Trolling with Logic, a weekly. I don't know what kind of show. We'll say skeptic and secular. That seems good right now. Just a quick announcements to get out of the way first. I say we are live on Google Hangouts. If you have a problem with the stream, you can also watch us trollingwithlogic.com/live. There's also an IRC chat room. The server is irc.sinirc.net, and the channel is Trolling with Logic, all one word. You're also free to call in. You can call in by adding the Skype contact Trolling with Logic. Send me a little PM with a gist to your question. I will try and get you on in time. And also remember, by calling in, you grant us permission to use your likeness, as the show is recorded for later upload, so no funny stuff with the DMCAs. And the recording of this show is public domain, so feel free to copy, distribute, share this show in part or whole, just as long as you link back to us as a courtesy. So I think that's all the legal stuff out the way. So very quickly, a little bit of a reduced panel currently. And somebody's echoing. I don't know who that was echoing, but it's gone now. And just to say, we've got a little bit of a reduced panel right now. We do have some of the regulars. They will be along shortly. So very quickly, introducing back Sheila. How are you doing? And back for the second week in a row for you, Kitch. Welcome back. So we'll very quickly introduce our two guests. We have the president of, I'm not going to try and pronounce their name in the native language because I'm just going to butcher it horribly, the Danish Atheist Society. Please welcome Kurt. And also probably a lot of the TwL fans, you'll be familiar with Tilson or Christian. Again, I'm not going to try your full name because I'll probably miss. Yeah, I've seen it written down and I still can't figure it out. But you are the International Relations Officer. Please tell me I've got it right at last. Yes! Oh, but it's close enough. I'm always getting it wrong. So, welcome to the show, guys. And I think, Sheila, you were going to start with the introductory questions.
In a sorry. Oh, that was April.
Cal, it's
Okay, sorry. Yeah, that's it sorted now.
Ahmed,
No, no. Carry on. Okay, just please, everyone hold on. I'm going to try and sort this out. Is this any better, guys? Can someone speak just so I can...
Okay, testing. Let's see if I can hear myself on the stream.
Is that coming through for everyone?
Not on my end. I'll see if I can hear
There's
myself.
a hell of a delay. It does seem, I do seem to be getting a level from everyone now. There's no echo for anyone, is there?
No, not currently.
No echo.
No, not here.
Okay, I think I've got it back now.
Oh, yeah, it's back.
Is it back?
Yeah, I can hear the stream.
Oh, the stream. Sorry, I thought you said the echo was back.
No, the stream is back.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that, everyone. A slight technical difficulty. I don't know what. No one probably heard what Kurt was talking about there, so I'm very sorry about that, Kurt. So.
Yeah, you asked me to pause.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was because the audio was.
Do you want me to shut up? What?
No. Yeah, it's just a technical problem. It's the internet, sort of. Even. So I think we'll just go back. Shall we get Curtis to? Can you go over what you just said quickly? I'm sorry about that.
From what?
The last Sheila, you can just ask your last question because no one heard it, I think.
Yeah, from the beginning.
Yeah.
You want it from the beginning again? Okay. Well, just kind of a quick overview about what the Danish Atheist Society was and what you guys stand for.
Yeah, but that stands in our aims. We started to be an association for not believers.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
I think, did you not hear the rest of it?
No, it was the people listening couldn't hear it. We could hear you fine, but the audience. Yeah.
I will continue very rapidly.
Yeah, that's
okay.
Great.
I think we have to take it from the start, Kurt, from what we're all about.
Yeah. Yeah.
From the beginning.
If you can just do like a brief summary, we can include like a link to the website. If they can go in and get more of a detailed.
Let's see if I can remember what I said.
Well,
it was very good.
You could do it quickly if you want to. Then you could go on about the campaigns we're going about.
Okay.
Well, you want me to continue with the campaigns?
I'll just summarize what the Danish Atheist Society is quickly, and then you could go on about the campaign, because all you said just before, the other people listening could not hear. So, okay, I'll let you in.
Tilden, if you can just...
Okay. The Danish Atheist Society was formed about 10 years ago. We just had our 10th anniversary last November, so we're about 11 years old now. We are an organization that works to spread the naturalistic worldview, helps promote skepticism, and to reduce the prejudice against atheists in Denmark. And even though we have about 750 paying members in our organization, we claim that about 50% of the Danish populations are proper atheists, but are not vocal about it. And some of the things we've been involved with is sort of the Muhammad cartoons that most of the world remember in South Park Paradise. We went in and discussed about that. We're very much for freedom of speech, which also entails the fact that we have a blasphemy law in Denmark that we've been working to get rid of. And we've got many current campaigns. And Kurt, you can talk about the very current campaign we have going on now.
Thank you. Well, that sounds like me. But the campaigns, all right. We have 3 years of constantly press on politicians and media for prohibiting male genital mutilation of the penis for boys under 18 years. And it's a hard work, and we're continuing in next month, in the start of next month, and then 3 to 4 months after that, in companionship with doctors and everyone. And I think that we will get a success by that.
Just to follow on from that, is circumcision in Denmark, is it quite common? Does it happen quite a lot there?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, I wouldn't have thought so myself.
Yeah.
Is it mostly in the immigrant communities, or is it just in Danish society in general?
No Danes.
No, so it's more like.
Sorry.
So it's more like a kind of, I know.
Yeah, to tell you frankly,
yeah.
It's Jews and Muslims.
Okay. And like, I take it, what's the reaction from the Jewish and Muslim community been?
Well, the rabbi in Denmark was claiming that if we should come to that situation that there was a prohibition against the genital mutilation in Denmark, it was the same as if we told the Jews that they are not welcome in Denmark. And that is rubbish.
Yeah.
Everybody is welcome, but they have to, well, act in our laws, I mean. And that goes for Jews, that goes from everybody.
Did you say a little bit ago that the female circumcision has been banned?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was because the feminists in Denmark, they were very strong at that time, and it was primarily the girls from Somalia that was a problem.
Right.
So they made that rule in Denmark.
Just to expand upon that, circumcision for women was banned in 2006 in Denmark. Yeah. And there were some political parties that suggested that it should be gender equal, but it didn't have the support of our parliament. And also, we're not against circumcision for adults. It's only children, basically. So if you're over the age of 18, you can cut as much you want of your penis.
Of course. The whole thing. Well, yeah, I think there was good support, Christian.
Well, sorry, you go, Sheila.
Yeah, come on, Sheila.
No, I just had a comment. I know, I completely agree with that. It'd be like any other body mutilation, I suppose, tattooing or piercing or anything. It should be left to the adult to decide.
Yeah.
So, what's some of the other campaigns the society's involved in?
In this?
Yeah. Well, just in general, the society. Is there any other campaigns you're involved?
We have a society that is primarily led by doctors who has formed an organization against this. And
I think you're asking what other campaigns we have, Kurt, not who else is also in this campaign.
Yeah.
It's just because I'm so interested in this one.
Yeah, that's because it's not our most current one, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Okay.
But we have some campaigns that we run every year.
Yeah. The second is cancellation of membership of the Danish established church by a form on our website. Because in Denmark, when you are baptized, you are automatically a member of the Danish church.
Well, that's interesting. You have to be baptized to be a member?
Yeah.
In Sweden, you're born into it. Well, you were. No
Yeah.
longer, but you were born into it. So I was never baptized, but I was still a member of the church until I opted out.
Yeah. But in Denmark, well, the baptism is the 0 point.
To also expand on this, it's because the people in charge of registering newborns is the state church, except in municipalities in southern parts of Jutland when they were reunited with Denmark after the war. They still just do it on a state or municipality level. But everywhere else in Denmark, it's the state church to register your newborn, regardless of what faith or non-faith you have. Yeah. In 2010 or 9, as I recall, they made it possible for you to send them a letter if you didn't want to meet up at your local church office. But as it is in most places, people have to go up to a church office to register a newborn. And we actually had a Supreme Court case in 2008 about this, when a Catholic father was outraged that he had to go to a Protestant church to register his child, and
I can understand that.
he went all the way to Supreme Court with it because he thought it was violating the freedom of religion that we have in our Constitution. But in our Constitution it says that no one shall be forced to directly support a religion they are not a part of. But since that it's through his tax money and they get money from the state budget as well, it's indirect support, so it's not violating. So he didn't win that court case.
No, but the truth is, Christian, that you're paying church tax from the point that you have been baptized until your eighth year.
But the state church as well gets about 1 billion Danish kroners besides the 7 billion they get from tax. Yeah.
So if you want to get rid of the Danish church, you're still paying about 1 billion Danish crowns.
Yeah.
And that goes
even if you're not a member, you still pay to the church through the taxes.
And those billion will come directly to the priests, paying the priests. So that's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're saying that the taxes that you pay just as a citizen actually pay for that?
Yeah, it pays for most of their wages. We had a scandal that we also went on and commented about. In my region, in the northern part of Jutland, which is more religious than the part that Kurt is from, which is Copenhagen, we had 8 priests that refused to bury a woman's mother because the mother happened to be a lesbian. And this is a state church, and they own all the burial grounds in Denmark so far. They have a monopoly of where people to bury.
That's just messed up.
And they are allowed to say, no, we don't want to bury someone because there's ethical thing going on. And in my area, there's not many churches. So 8 priests refusing, you have to go really far away now to then get the 9th priest. And it was so absurd that you had priests in Copenhagen actually demonstrating against their colleagues in Jutland. And everyone pays to these priests' wages through our common taxes. So even when you go in and, because on our website we have a form, because you can't just go in and to the church and say, I don't want to be a member anymore. You have to actually give them a form they had themselves on their website, which they removed later on, which gave us a lot of traffic because people are coming to us to get out of the state church. Even though people might not be atheists, they still come to us to get help to get out of the state church.
And, well, we had a case in Jutland where a bishop approved that the members who want to get rid of the Danish church should come personally into the church.
But there was actually a common priest in the mid parts of Jutland.
Yeah, that's right.
She wrote an article how she wanted people to come in and have a personal conversation before leaving the church.
And then we came into the picture, and we wrote to the church minister, and he agreed that that was wrong. So he did send out a very good formula saying, no, you don't have to personally get into the church to get rid of it.
Yes, and on our website we also, because a lot of priests try to sort of make it harder for leaving the state church, say you have to have original documents and so on. But on our form we've stated all the necessary requirements. You only have to give up your social security number and so on. You don't have to meet up and give them the original document from your baptism, which might be like decades ago. You might not have the original document. That's not required, but some priests actually said that was required, even though it's not legally required.
But it's also funny, Christian, that well, I think that those who has been baptized, they are kidnapped into the Danish church until the age of 18.
Yeah, when you're under 15, you can actually get baptized without your own permission into the church.
Yeah.
And you can only leave the church by your own will when you're 18, unless you get parents' consent.
Parents, yeah, that's right. Funny
Wow.
thing.
Do you think it's like are there a large number of people who are walking away from the church? Do you think that's it's kind of a fear thing to prevent the numbers from going down?
We have the figures and for cancelling the church, and it goes up and up and up. In the Copenhagen area, well, it's nearly 50%.
Actually, in Copenhagen now, it's 45%. In the metropolitan area of Copenhagen, it's 45% who are members of the state church.
Now, you're always correcting me. Why?
No, I'm supplementing you. But to compare it to my region, for example, the northern part of Jutland, it's 80% are still members of the state church. But the numbers of people getting baptized is getting lower by the year. And I was actually interviewed 2 years ago when the bishop in my region actually blamed me for all the people leaving the state church. And I was like, well, thank you. That's a shoulder clap. We were only like 2 active people in my region of the Danish Atheist Society.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah. So the last thing that we are doing, well, we are very active in both TV, radio, and writing articles in printed newspaper, as well as their websites.
Yeah.
We have been interviewed by, well, so many Danish televisions within the last year. And the radios go as well. And it's far more interesting today for the press to make interviews with us than before. So we have increased the demand of that we can be heard within the last 2 years.
But it's also because we've made a really big effort to actually put a light on all the things that's wrong with the state church.
Yeah.
That, like, for example, with the woman who couldn't bury her mother, we put a light on that. Circumcision, we put a light on that. We put a light on even a state church that was putting down a veto against having 2 windmills built in my area, where we actually had 2 state institutions. Actually, the municipality in my area sent, because every time you have to build like big windmill farms, they have to put it out for voting in the local community. And the 17,000 people living there approved it. But then the local church, which was 1.6 kilometers away from the place where the windmills were placed, they had 8 people on the local church council. And they put down a veto against the municipality. And the first reaction the politicians in my region was like, can they do that? And they took up a 200-year-old law about how the church is a state institution and the state trumps over the municipality. And it took a year before they got overruled by another state institution, which is basically our environment and technical department, the EPA of Denmark, so to speak. So they went in and said to the church, no, you're fucking ridiculous. Stop.
That's amazing that the church has that kind of power. It basically is a state institution.
Yeah. And that's why that our biggest campaigns goes for education material to the schools, primary school and gymnasiums.
Yeah, high schools.
High schools, yes, sorry.
So, what's the...
So we have been making printed materials, which we give away for free. And we are also saying that we will come to your class, your school, and give us an hour to explain what atheism is. And that has increased for the last year. And that goes both for the Copenhagen area and for Jutland. And that we're very proud of, because Jutland was a little bit behind. No, not a little bit, more. So that is success.
Okay, I think Martin, you wanted to come in with a question.
Yep.
Yeah, I just had something quick to say. I just checked the IRC chat, and there are some figures there posted by Belzer about the percentage of the population that is atheist. This whole 85% in Sweden, 80% in Denmark, and so on. I think I'd really like to know how the question is asked, because very few people in Sweden identify as atheists. They would identify as non-religious.
Well,
I think it's pretty much the same in Denmark.
Yeah, one of the questions was that, are you a member of the Danish church? And, 85% of said yes. Okay. Do you believe in God? No. So why are you a member of the Danish church? Well, that's a tradition.
Yeah.
And there's also a lot of people. The question, I've seen some of the questionnaires. I think this one guy who he lived in Denmark and in Sweden for like 2 years. He traveled around, wrote a book about it, about the irreligiosity of Scandinavia. And I would say about 50% are like what we call proper atheists, people who don't believe in a God and who are skeptic about the supernatural. Because even though you don't believe in a God, we've got a lot of spiritualists, a lot of New Age people in Denmark, and they might, and we also got Buddhists, and they might fit in the strict definition of a non-believer, an atheist, a person who doesn't believe in a God. But when we talk about atheists, it's people who would fit under the resolutions and regulations that we have in our organizations, that if you don't believe in a God, you're not affiliated with a religion, and you follow the naturalistic worldview, basically, and science.
Yeah. Another thing, really quickly, just while I was thinking about this, you mentioned talking about atheism in school, and I think that's a brilliant thing to do, because that's like completely overlooked in religious studies. That there's no, it's just, well, you might mention that there are those that don't belong to any religion, but what does that imply? How does a person like that think, or where do they get their morality from? All those things that keeps popping up, every now and then questions like that are asked, and I think it's important that kids actually are taught about that option as well.
Yeah, but that's also our experience that when I'm talking to the schools, to the classes, they often ask me about, don't you believe in anything? No, I don't. Yeah, but where do we come from? Well, I say, we come from Athens, and we become Athens after all.
Yeah.
And I would be happy if those Athens will be generated into a mirror in an Indian truck, because then I could see myself.
Okay, so we do have a caller lined up, so if you guys can just fire away with some questions, and I'll try and bring the caller in.
Yep.
So, Marty, Sheila, Kitch.
Yeah, I just asked 2 questions.
Well, we could, because Kurt and I, we're really passionate about our campaigns about circumcision, and one of the places that we get most of the opposition, our local politicians say that they're afraid of the Muslims getting upset, but we also, the most opposition we get from outside the country is from Israel and the States, America, that basically say that we shouldn't ban circumcision in Scandinavia, actually, because both Norway, Denmark, and Sweden are all trying to work now to see if we could ban this. And it's really important for us to basically say that it's unnecessary. We have the science, we have the studies saying that it's bad for you, basically, that to get circumcised. There's so many things that could go wrong, and it's so unnecessary, and it's ethically wrong to basically violate a child.
Yeah. But I think that
what bothers me is that it needs to be banned, because we already have laws against assault.
Yeah.
That's the strange part. Why should we need a ban? It should be banned already because
religion is
chopping off a part of another person's body. You know that's illegal.
No, but religion is above everything in Denmark.
Yeah.
Yeah, as you said earlier, Kurt, I don't know if that came into the stream, but as you said earlier, if you stand in a kitchen and try to cut off a boy's penis, then you'll be charged with assault. But if you have a holy man next to you, then it's completely legal.
Yeah.
Okay, I'd like to introduce the caller. Stefan, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
All right, you're on the show, so ask your question.
Yeah, okay. I'm actually have something to contribute. I'm also a Danish member of the Selskab, and I have an idea about why some people are atheists but still members of the Danish state church, and that's I often hear the argument that some people don't actually know what happens to them if they're not a member of the church and die, because all the church own all the burial grounds.
Yes, and that actually goes. Sorry, you had more?
Yeah, because some people are afraid that it's going to be very expensive for the family to bury somebody because they're not a member. I'm not sure about what actually happens there.
If you see our rules in the Danish Atheisrisk, you will see that we don't allow our members to get involved by any religion.
Yeah, but that's not the question. Basically, what is that people are afraid to leave the state church because of the burial grounds and the prices. As it is, if you're a member and you have to bury someone, I think the cheapest you can get is about 2,000 Danish kroners. But if you're not a member, the price can actually go up to 20,000 Danish kroner. And since there's no other option to get buried besides church ground, then you're basically stuck with that. And we'll be working on getting burial grounds privatized, so to speak. But so far we've gotten non-religious and atheist burial grounds, 3 places in Denmark, 2 in Copenhagen and 1 in Aarhus for the past 2 years. But yeah, that's one major issue because we're all going to die, and there's laws against where you could dump a body. Basically, you can't just drop them in the yard and say, "So I could save $2,000 doing that." But no, you can't do that. You have to go to the state church, and the state church says, "Well, you're not a member. You have to pay 10 times as much." Then, so it's basically extortion.
But it is, and that's why so many people are still a member of the church. So.
Yeah, but let me tell you something, that we have been successful in making the first non-religious graveyard.
Yeah, I know that, but that's all the way on the Selskab.
And now we have in Copenhagen too.
Yeah.
Yes, but the problem with those graveyards is still the prices. The prices didn't change.
No, because we were in a meeting with the graveyard in Copenhagen.
Yeah.
And they will be sending me a price catalog for non-members.
But actually considering lowering the prices now.
No.
Okay. So it's still a problem that if you're not a member, it costs you much more.
Well, you can do that if you want to be burnt. I mean, you can get away with the ashes in the sea. No problem.
Yeah. Nothing.
Yeah, perhaps a ship to get it out to the sea.
And you still have to write to the church to get permission.
No. Not if you're doing in Kattegat or every open sea. You don't.
But you still have to get permission to spread someone's ashes in the sea.
No, you just have to tell them.
Yeah, you just have to tell them, of course, but they have to give you permission. You can't just dump someone in the sea.
If you want to drop it in a fjord, in somebody else, in your garden, for instance, or a wood, you should have commitment from the church.
Yeah.
It is possible to do it. They don't do it as normally, but you can do it.
Yeah, technically you can, but they have to give permission.
Yeah.
But you still have to go through the church and not the civil state, so to speak.
That's true, and that's, yeah.
That's one of the problems, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why people might not leave the state church, because it can complicate things upon their...
I mean that each time it's always in the morning. I don't know. I hate mornings. But older people are phoning me and saying, well, we are at the hospital and I will soon be dead. I'm not a member of the Danish church, and my family doesn't know that I'm an atheist. What do I do? And those Christians are increasing from week to week. So we have been discussing in our society what we can do about the Christian, because it's a need. It's a very bad need.
Okay, Stefan, do you have another question?
No, I don't have anything else to contribute.
All right. Thanks for your call.
No problem.
Bye. I wanted to ask, what kind of role does the church play in Denmark in education? I mean, like I said, in Scotland we have like religious observance once a week in schools. Is there a similar thing in Danish schools?
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, what does the church have an active role in the education system in Denmark?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like the example I have in Scotland, once a week, the children, they have to go for prayers and that.
Yeah, they can go to the church. They can be educated by a priest.
Okay.
But it's not allowed to, let's say, convince.
Proselytize.
All right.
Yeah.
What it is, it's basically confirmation preparation.
Right.
And technically, it's not written into the school law that the church has this position, but in most regions, most places, the church educational time is placed in school time, basically.
Yeah.
But it's not mandatory, so there are teens who are not getting confirmated, and they just get those hours off, basically. We've also been advocating that these education hours should be placed after school.
Yeah.
But then the priest complained about the teenagers don't want to go to church then. Well, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I said, the situation in Scotland is there's 1 hour a week, and your child is automatically put into it. You have to actually specifically say, no, I don't want my child to go to the religious observance.
Let me ask you, is that about the Catholicism or Protestant? Protestant?
It's nearly all Protestant. And that's non-denominational schools as well. They have to have religious observance every week. And the parent has to actually say, no, I don't want that, because they're put into it automatically.
Yeah.
We also have religion class or Christianity class in the primary schools, which is biased towards Christianity. I think in the 30s or 40s it was changed in the high schools to become a non-biased factual education about religions. But the primary schools still kept the fact that they have to be biased towards Christianity, that the children have to learn the basic stories in the Bible. They also have to learn how to sing a psalm. That's written into the plan of what this education had to do. And we calculated that throughout the entire school life in primary school, the 9 years that are mandatory, Christianity class or religion class, as it's been renamed many places, has 300 hours, which is more than social studies and history class and our what we call it science class, basically. So they have more hours in science classes, social studies classes, and history classes throughout the entire life of primary school, which is dedicated to Christianity. And it's only until you get into the later grade, 7th to 8th, 9th grade, when you're taught about other worldviews. And that's basically where we get our educational material from what is an atheist out to the elder children, because the younger kids are not taught about it until they get older.
So they're not just teaching about Christianity; it's actual Bible study for the younger kids.
No.
Sort of. You get taught, you get told the Bible stories, but it's not like a history class or a culture class like it is in high school. It's basically, it is sort of proselytizing in a manner, to speak, in primary school. It's been sort of downplayed a lot a couple of years. It's been revised, because when I went to primary school, it was called Christianity class. And some places still called Christianity class, but now it's religion class. But still, in the younger grades, it's still basically proselytizing. It's and by a teacher, not by a priest.
Okay.
The funny thing is also that the schoolmasters, or not the schoolmaster, but the board of the school, can deny our material.
Yeah, we have school board, which mainly consists of parents.
Yeah.
Yeah, and depending on which region, they can deny what material could get in. Sort of like the school boards in America voting on what material to be used. We got them for each school, like a parent board.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and it doesn't even, here in the States, it doesn't even require any sort of educational background. You don't have to be teachers or anything. It's just they elect whoever, popular vote gets to be on school board. So
here it has to be the parents. They have to have a kid in the school.
Okay.
So it's like a parent board at the schools.
Yeah.
We have a question from the chat. This is just direct to both Kurt and Tilson. From Wider. I have actually a question for the two of them. What's their opinion? Sorry, I'm just reading this verbatim now. What's their opinion on taxpayers' money being spent on priest visits to hospitals when the money could be spent on healthcare?
It's a crime.
Yeah, it is kind of a tricky question, because I wouldn't say that if someone is lying on the deathbed and they wanted a visit from a priest, I don't think the taxpayer should pay for it, but the individual religious community should themselves offer this opportunity, because it's as it is now. If you're a Catholic or non-Lutheran, because the state church is a Lutheran church, so if you're a Baptist or you're an Anglican, you don't get the same benefits, because the tax monies don't go to those priests. They don't go to the imams either. Don't go to the rabbis either. So it should be equal, that every community should pay for their own priest and so on. If they have someone from their parish who wants a visit from their priest in hospital, well, then that's the issue of their parish, basically.
I said in a TV interview that, in my opinion, they should set up a box on the churches, and then people could use their Visa card to pay for the day.
Yeah, like an entry fee. So if you go into a church, you can pay with your credit card.
So, well, if that would happen, I think that the Danish church will kill themselves.
So, I was going to ask, where have you gotten the most resistance? Like in Denmark, is it from the Lutherans? You also mentioned there's quite a big Muslim community as well in Denmark now.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and I take it are they kind of your most vocal opponents, or is it the Lutherans?
Yeah, the worst thing is that we have the Hizb-ut-Tahrir organization.
Yeah, is there a push in Denmark to get Sharia law?
Yeah.
All right, and what's going on there with that?
Well, they're trying to get the most members as possible.
Right.
They're trying to get political influence. As it is now, they don't really have political influence. But there have been some things where our local politicians have going on their demands. We had a case where we had some hospitals, well, one hospital in Hvidovre in Denmark, which said that we're only going to serve halal food from now on, basically. And that's sort of the smaller things they get into. But in a grander scale, our biggest opponent is the state church, because politically they have the most power. What it is about Hizb ut-Tahrir and other Muslim groups is basically they're trying to run a parallel community, basically, a parallel society. That and we're also vocal about, we don't want like local ghettos turning into like mini Muslim communities where they invoke their own laws, basically, besides the Danish laws. As I recall, England actually has sort of a Sharia court for civil things. And we don't want that in Denmark, but I don't think there's no politicians that are working to get this. But the issue is there's sort of two issues. There's the societal issues, and then there's the political issues, where Hizb ut-Tahrir is more responsible for the societal issues that they can cause problems with trying to force people either by threats of violence or by pressuring local kindergartens into, because our kindergartens also have local board members as well. And if they can also, if they have enough power in a local community, they could pressure them to do certain things, like saying from now on there should not be pork on the menu. But on a grander scale, then yeah, it's this state church. It also has the biggest budget of a combined 8 billion Danish kroner, and they only have, I calculated, because they don't really want to go out and tell how many people go to church each Sunday in Denmark. But there was some indication in 2009 that they did some surveys, and 3 out of 4 Sundays in a month, they would roughly, on average, in all the churches, we have 2,100, everyone would have 44 people in them. Which means that some of the churches, of course, have 0 people in most of the Sundays. And there is the biggest issue is also that no one knows how to close down a church, because in our constitution it says the administration of the church and how it's run is based on the church law. But there is no such thing as a church law, because for the past 200 years they couldn't agree what this church law should be. And they're now trying again to see who is it who has the supreme power of the state church. Should it be the minister of the church, who's a politician elected? Is the bishops, or is it the queen, who's basically the head of the church in ceremonial rites? So it's a complete fucking mess when it comes to politics and within the church as well. But when it comes to equality in society, for example, Denmark was the first country to legalize pornography. We were the first country to legalize abortions. We were the first country to also give homosexuals a civil unions, basically. But we didn't give them the same rights as the married couple until 2 years ago. And my biggest issue with the state church and the society is that when we wanted to give the homosexual the same rights as a married couple, when they go down to the courthouse and want to get married, we had to talk to the church. We had to ask them, what should we do about it? And we shouldn't ask the church, but then the bishops had to vote for it. It wasn't like all the bishops went out and said, yeah, that's a great idea. We should absolutely include the homosexuals. It was a narrow majority that went through it. There were two bishops that abstained from voting, I think 6-4, and the rest was against. And this was actually the cause of many people leaving the state church when homosexual marriages was approved, because there's a lot of Christians who didn't think that homosexuals should be wed in a church. And I would agree on them from a biblical point of view that, yeah. And I said, well, if you don't want to wed the homosexuals, then separate, for fuck's sake. Don't be a part of the state. Then run your own society. And we should do as they do in Netherlands and in Germany, that you go to the courthouse and you get the legal documents of being married. And if you want a ceremony, then you go to your churches. It shouldn't be the churches that dictates what the rights are. Why should we why should we listen to them when it comes to the rights of women and homosexuals, or if someone wants to look at naked people? We should listen to them.
Yeah,
so that's basically my why I think the state church is the biggest problem we have compared to either Hizb ut-Tahrir and the state church, because we don't listen to Hizb ut-Tahrir when it comes to making laws or equality, but we have to listen to the bloody state church.
I was going to say, do they have a lot of political influence? Like, are the politicians intimidated by them, or are the politicians afraid to upset the state church?
Yeah, it depends on the political party, because we have some it's mainly the Conservatives in the Danish People's Party and the Conservative Party, and well, it's actually across the board basically, except I think the Red Green Alliance, which is a group of political groups like communist and ultra socialist that went together and created their own party. They're the only ones who basically are vehemently against the state church. But within most parties, there are a lot of members who listens to the state church. And we also have an ethical board in Denmark when it comes to ethical decisions like stem cell research. And the majority of the people on that board are Christians, like theologians, or people who are openly Christian about it. And I've talked with one of the members as well when it came to circumcision 2 years ago, because we had this researcher, for example, Morten Frisch was the guy who published the article about how circumcision actually lowered the sexual pleasure of both men and women in circumcised couples. Like, if the man is circumcised, it also lowers the quality of the sex life of the woman. And in this case, when it began, when he and I, he had this mailing list, and he didn't BCCC, like secret. He didn't hide who received these newsletters. And when one guy, a former professor of medicine, saw that I was on this list, he got outraged and sent an email like how an atheist could be part of this group, like are we now just promoting the atheist and so on. And then I was called up by one of the members of the ethical board and asking me what it's all about, and I was like, I have no clue. But yeah, there are people, the politicians, and they listen to the state church and they want to preserve it. One of the things also that made it obvious was we have a national broadcasting company called Danish Radio, similar to the BBC, and it's our parliament that votes for the guidelines of what they broadcast and how they work. And our former government included that they should actively promote a Christian worldview. But they quickly found out they can't just do that, so they actually had to write in that they can't go against homosexuals and other things. They're actually to write in now that they can't be hateful against other people because they have to promote a Christian worldview. But the Danish radio is also known for being a sort of a left-leaning broadcasting company. They got a lot of left-leaning journalists, and they were upset about this as well. So they sort of fixed this by sending most of the extra Christian things to like DAP radio channels that no one actually listened to. But overall, we still get influenced by it, and everyone has to pay to this broadcasting company from what we call license money. Yeah. So.
Okay, yeah. We've got Stefan back. Are you there, Stefan?
Yeah.
All right, you had another point to bring up?
Yeah, this was about the ethical board in Denmark, Ateisrisk. I didn't know how much you talked about a Christian because of the time delay and so on. But in the Denmark, you also have the Ateisrisk, and they often counsel the people, the Folketing about matters like abortion and stem cell research, and the majority of the members of the board are church leaders or priests.
Yeah, I said that.
You actually did that?
Yeah.
I'm just repeating everything then.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's one of the main issues with the ethical board we have.
Yeah.
That they are counseled by the parliament in Denmark.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Okay, yeah, but that's just what I wanted to add, but yeah.
All right, thanks anyway, Stefan.
Yeah, okay.
I was going to say, Krisha, well, you kind of, the international relations, isn't it? That's your kind of post. So what does that involve exactly?
It involves basically try to network with the other atheist groups and see if we could sort of combine powers when necessary. I had a talk with Stuart Beckman, who's the current president of the Atheist Alliance International. He was also the president before. And I said one of the things we have to try and put our power behind in the atheist community out there is basically try and fight against circumcision, because there's a lot of atheists, especially in America, who are still for circumcision because it's a cultural thing in America. It's not a religious thing as it is in Europe, because in Europe it's only Muslims and Jews circumcised. But in America it's still like 60–50% who get their newborn circumcised. And the history behind it is so fucking absurd, because how it started over there, but basically in England in the 18th century, there's some psychiatrists who basically wanted to stop masturbation. And they had a visit from this American psychiatrist or psychologist named Kellogg, who also made the cereal brand Kellogg. And he was very against masturbation, and he even invented cornflakes as an anti-masturbation thing, putting in the mattresses so it would crunch, so it would make people more aware that they shouldn't masturbate. But he thought this idea that circumcision should be a great tool against masturbation, which I would say, yeah, it probably is for the first couple of weeks after the circumcision. And he brought it to America, and for some weird reason, it just kept being there in America. And one of the major sites on the internet called Reddit, they sort of now and then have this circumcision debate going up. And Reddit works by upvoting and downvoting comments and articles. And when you look in the comments in the circumcision debates, it's very evenly distributed. A lot of Americans are so protective against circumcision. And Lena Nyhus, who's the president of Intact Denmark, the organization that formed last year that only works against circumcision, she said, well, it's kind of hard for people who have been circumcised to basically admit to themselves that there's something wrong done to them, that it's such a violation of their integrity, and it's not because the parents are responsible for the well-being of the child, and it's not that I think that the parents are willing to hurt their child on purpose, but it's one of the things that they did. It's like if they had their child circumcised, they're like, fuck, did I now do something wrong to my child? And they have to just admit to themselves that, yeah, okay, I fucked up, but you have to get over it and support your child if something happens. And some of the arguments that I read are like, well, I've been circumcised and I don't feel like it's done anything to me. Like, I like my penis anyway. It's like, yeah, but that's not the point. You've never actually experienced anything different. And then there are the people that say that, well, I don't want my boy to be ridiculed in the showers at gym because he looks different. And it's like, okay, let's say the society has something against earlobes. Would you cut off your earlobe just to make your child fit in more? No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't tattoo them either. It's basically branding your child for life. And again, with the rabbi, the over-rabbi in Denmark, doesn't actually represent all the Jews in Denmark, because there are a lot of Jews who are also against circumcision. And basically, he's been outright lying in the Danish media. He basically said on live TV that there's never been any complication with circumcisions in Denmark. And funny enough, they cut to a doctor of the neonatal department at the main hospital, the largest hospital in Denmark, the guy who actually gets the children and do surgery on them. He says, well, that's a lie. I get these kids. And I've been on a live debate show as well, where I had some people telling me that, well, the babies can't remember it anyway. So it's like, these arguments are so horrible. It's like, if your baby can't remember the pain, you're just advertising that you hurt a child because they can't remove it anyway. It's so fucking absurd.
Yeah, it's interesting over here. It's promoted more as a health thing. I've got 2 boys, and both of my boys were circumcised. But I was very young and very uneducated, and just assumed that, well, the doctors are suggesting that my kids be circumcised, it must be for a good reason. Had I actually looked more into it and studied up on it, I wouldn't have done it. And I can't, say that I regret it now because it's not going to do me any good. But I think it's just people are ignorant to the facts, and because a lot of doctors are promoting it as a health issue, a lot of kids are getting circumcised unnecessarily. And I think, and I find over here that the those who are so for it are a lot of them are guys who have already been circumcised. So they just it's like they want to assume that what they've had done to them is just the way that it should be.
Yeah.
Yeah, the health thing. There was actually a study 2005 or 6 when they started trying to circumcise in Africa, I think in Ghana, Nigeria, and Uganda, to see if that could prevent the spread of HIV. And the initial report said yes, it did actually lower the spread of HIV, but later on studies last year, 2 years ago, actually showed that the rate of HIV has actually gone up again to the same level. And when you look into how the circumcision study was made back in the early 2000s, they were actually giving sex ed and condoms as well as getting circumcised. And it's sort of the health thing, like people say, well, it's more hygienic. It's like, no, take a shower. It's like there's like, oh, it risks like cancer in the penis by 1%. Yeah, if you cut up your pinky toe, you have lowered the risk of getting athlete's foot or cancer in your foot. It's still an invalid argument. And actually, the pediatricians of the Pediatrician Society in America do not actively promote circumcision. They're basically neutral on the point. They say there's actually no active benefit, but they say there's no actual disadvantage either. But most pediatrician societies around the world says there's no benefit, and statistically about 100 children in America actually die from circumcision, and more than that get complications, either partial amputation and so on. And even if it's lower than 100 kids, because we had one in Norway that died 2 or 3 years ago, which sparked debate again in Scandinavia. Even if only 1 child died of circumcision, it's just still 1 child too many, because it's so unnecessary.
Yeah.
It's also funny, Christian, that most of the people who are doing this awful thing are claiming that God made them as man and woman. But why then take away something that God had created? It's a funny thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting. I mean, human beings have evolved we've adjusted and evolved as we went. Certain qualities that we didn't need have gone away, and we've adapted new qualities that we did need. We have less hair now because we just don't need it anymore. So with all of this evolving, one would think that if you didn't need foreskin, we just wouldn't have it anymore. Obviously it's there to serve a purpose.
And there is a purpose, as the researcher Morten Frisch, who's also he's also head chief of medicine at the Danish CDC. He also explained that not only are there lots of nerve endings, when you circumcise, you remove 30% of nerve endings on a penis, but it's also that for lubrication. And it dawned to me not long ago when an American explained to me why there's always lubrication in like American Pie and so on. It's like, it's so obvious, like, yeah, if you're circumcised, you would need like lubrication to just masturbate, because without foreskin, you don't have the natural lubrication. The equivalent would basically somehow removing the ability for a woman to lubricate herself, and doing that to a man, it's like, well, guys who've been circumcised from birth, they obviously don't know the difference. Because they've never actually been able to do this. They just think, oh, that's natural, just go out and buy some hand lotions.
Right. Well, and it's interesting because they're always, you know, guys who have been circumcised since birth try to claim that it, well, you know, I don't think it's the lower sensation when I have sex, or, you know, but they really don't have anything to compare it to. How do you know that you're not missing out on something? You know,
exactly, and I've seen the interviews and things from people who got circumcised as adults. Some of them try to defend as well, saying that they like having the lower sensation because then they can last longer.
Right.
And it's like, okay, that's your opinion, but you shouldn't force it upon children either way. It's like, if you're okay, if you don't want to last longer, if you want to lower the sensation of your penis, go ahead, but do it as an adult. That's fine.
Right.
Okay, we do have a caller. Gary, are you there?
Yes, hi Carl.
Hi there, welcome to the show. What's your question, Gary?
I didn't even have one. I was interested in the program.
All right.
It's very interesting, and I was listening in, and I thought I would, you know, come on board and join in. But I was interested in the efforts to start up an atheist group, and it looks pretty impressive by your numbers. I wonder what the next stage is, though. I know here in Scotland, I'm the secretary of the Scottish Secular Society here in Scotland. I think it's very important to look at the next step on how you can engage, and the problem I feel with atheism itself, it's very much a statement, and it's a statement at very opposite ends to religion. So there's constantly this kind of battle going on, and I think I was very influenced by the president of the National Secular Society, which is based in London. The president, Terry Sanderson, came up and spoke to a group of secularists at Holyrood, the Scottish Parliament, and he made it quite clear that religion is very, very powerful, and nothing can really be achieved by really, you know, fighting them, by expressing your atheism and trying to engage with them on that level, and that secularism is a kind of in-between thing that can successfully bring the two groups in. And believe me, that's not very easy. It's not very easy because there's suspicion more on the side of religionists. I think they're very suspicious that secularists are atheists and against them. And yes, there's a large number of atheists among secularists. There are people who have been hurt by religion. There are, of course, lesbian and gay people, extraordinary amount of those. But there's also religious people who do see the benefits of secularism, because after all, we're not only protecting people from religion, we're also protecting religion as well, because we defend freedom of speech, as I'm sure and I hope that many atheists do as well.
Yeah, in Denmark we can see that the Baptists and the Catholics are actually also promoting secularism in Denmark. It's funny because the Catholics in Ireland doesn't promote, but we've also, our experience at the Danish Atheist Society, have moved away from these more intellectual discussions with the church people. Like we don't really dwell into the debates as much as we did previously. We don't want to engage them on their playing field. We don't want to discuss theology with them anymore. What we, with the new board that Kurt is ahead of now, is basically we want to put a light on the issues that the church brings up and show it to the general public, because in the end, it's the general public that has to change its attitude towards the church.
Yeah, I agree. Interesting. Yeah, it's a difficult one. It's a really difficult one, and I think if any of you guys kind of go on to Secular Scotland, the Facebook page of our organisation, you'll see for yourself how difficult it is. I mean, today, just today, 2 people have had to be banned. Now, I've been doing this a year and a half. I've never banned anyone. I really do believe in free speech. But it is, as more and more people, and we're having, I think, nearly 900 now, it's getting more aggressive, more, there's just so much that people want to discuss and say, and the more news stories that we're putting up on the site.
What we've done on Facebook is that we have a page, and then we have a group. I just looked up to see you're running a group, and I'm also the guy who's the administrator on the Facebook things. I've also had to ban people because of people going too far away. Some people are really extreme in their anti-religious views, which basically almost bounds on hatred, which disturbs the actual conversation for the entire group. So we've kept that our outward-going communication to the general public is on our page. So on the group, everyone could basically put up on their own comments and so on. And I have to time and time tell people that what is in our group is not necessarily the view of the Danish Atheist Society, but members and non-members part of this group as well.
Good. I'll certainly have to have a look at it.
Yeah, you can add me on Facebook, and then we could talk about it later on. Then.
Very good.
It might be, Christian, that we should pronounce our website.
Yes.
It's Atheist. ATEIST.dk.
It's basically atheist in English without the H.
Yes,
yeah.
I've certainly promoted it on our page. We've got obviously invites to this program, so it is up there. So I'll have a look at that. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much, Gary.
Thanks.
Okay, we're coming up for the last 10 minutes. So, Kutch, Marty, or Sheila, do you have any final questions?
Yeah, there was one thing. I think we basically covered some of it anyway, but I promised someone that I would ask the point of having an atheist society. I mean, what's your take on that? Because, I mean, I'm pretty sure I know what you're going to say, and we've covered some of the reasons, I guess, but I mean, having a society about not believing something shouldn't be necessary.
No, but it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically, on our website, and when you want to become a member of our group, because basically when we meet up, we don't just meet up and say, hey, do you believe in God now? No? Okay, meeting over. We have resolutions, we have regulation. As Kurt also explained, that you're not allowed to be part of a religious a group or organization. And I would say that the Atheist Society is probably a bad translation of the Danish name, because the Danish name is Atheisrisk Selskab, and society, what people
fellowship,
in English,
basically.
Yes, and society is samfund in Danish.
Yeah.
So it's basically more like a fellowship, and our main goal is to get a secular nation. So we could basically also be the secular society if we want to, but we chose the atheist fellowship, but we chose the English name, society, before my time.
Sorry, did Sheila catch up a question there?
No, I think I pretty much got most of mine.
There was one thing. Can you tell us a little bit about the Atheist Alliance International? What is that all about?
What?
The Atheist Alliance International. Can you explain what that's about?
It's an umbrella organization. As I recall, they actually split from the American Atheist Society, which is run by the guy who also Silverman. Yeah. who also was on the show when I was on. They basically split because they also dealt with the international thing, but they split, so there's an American group and an international group. The international group, which is, we should also promote it there, which is atheistallianceinternational.com, as I recall, shortened down to AAI. And they are basically an umbrella, basically. If you have a atheist society, or atheist group, you could apply for membership and you pay for it, and you get their magazine, and they can help you out with certain things. Basically, there are also groups in Pakistan, there are groups in Africa, and the Atheist Alliance International will help these people, give them advice and so on. And as I had a call with Stuart Beckman, he got re-elected as a president, and he and I discussed what is the issues in Denmark, and I gave him a briefing of what is happening in Denmark and what can AI do for us. And that's where I said, well, they're currently running something about female mutilation in Africa, and I said, well, why not broaden this and also say that it shouldn't be for boys either until they're adults.
Yeah. And like I say, what's some of the, like you said, is there kind of unified campaigns that the Atheist Alliance International is working on?
Well, currently the last thing that they sent out basically was, support AAI and the Philippine Atheist and Agnostic Society for recovery and relief of the typhoon. So they're basically telling people that they're helping in the Philippines and the Philippine Atheist and Agnostic Society as well. So that's one of the things they're focusing on right now because of the catastrophe in the Philippines.
All right.
But otherwise, I can't remember if they have anything going on. Stuart Beckman mentioned last month that they had something about female mutilation.
And let's say, do you have much link up like with the other Scandinavian atheist groups?
As I recall, Sweden don't have any membership in the AAI. They have the Humanist Society. They don't actually have an atheist society. Norway has a society which is atheist, which is also a member of AAI, called the Heathen Society. I've tried to contact them, but didn't get a reply from them. Because I was asked actually by the AAI of where we should host the next international atheist convention, and Denmark was asked, and on our board we said no because we had it in 2010, but we then discussed in our board what about other places in Scandinavia, what about Sweden or like Göteborg or Stockholm, Malmö or Oslo in Norway, and I saw that, well, the Swedes don't have any atheist groups, so I had to go for Norway, but they never called back, so.
All right. Okay.
There's not much communication between the Scandinavian groups because there's not really many.
Okay.
But I do have communications with mainly the Americans, actually.
Yeah, because it's...
But don't mention the Finnish people.
Finland is not part of Scandinavia. It's part of the Nordic.
No, it's a part of Russia. Yeah, okay, sorry.
And now I can just hear all the Finnish people shouting, Perkele!
No, but I gotta say that I think it really is strange that Sweden doesn't have an atheist society, but the Humanist Society does promote those sorts of views. They're not very in your face about it.
Yeah.
We have a Humanist Society that broke off from the Atheist Society, and the main difference between us is basically that we're more political than they are. We are more in your face. We go after the politicians. Not that they don't also do that, but we're sort of more the watchdog, the bulldog in the media, in my opinion.
We're the bad guys.
Yeah, we're the bad guys. And the Humanist Society also tend to offer ceremonies and such things. They're sort of quasi-religious in that manner. They want to give something for the people who don't want to go to church, but still wants the rituals and so on.
All right.
And we don't offer that.
Okay, let's say we're coming up to the end of the show, so I'll allow Christian and Kurt your final thoughts there. So, I don't know, Kurt, do you have your final thoughts, please?
I think it was very interesting to get in touch with you. And unfortunately, my picture was not.
Yeah, your video was not broadcasting.
No. So I have been resting in that purpose. But I think it was very interesting, especially from the United States.
Yeah.
To hear the views.
Okay, Christian, your views, please.
Well, I've been on the show many times, so I don't have to say that it's an interesting thing. But I want to say, as a closing statement, that I really hope that the American atheists out there and the people who are members of the atheist groups in America help Europe support to ban circumcision on children. Educate yourself, read up on the latest studies of science, throw away your bias, basically. Be skeptical about it.
Is there a place there a single place where Europeans can go to find out information? Just
that the European Humanist Society, which we also communicate with, but there's no. The Atheist Alliance International is basically the only place where you could mingle out. I know that they have a Google discussion for members, so but they only allow certain people from the society group. So I think we got 2 people on our board that are allowed to discuss, because they have a lot of groups that are under this umbrella. So if all their members were allowed to discuss, there's just really would explode, basically. So talk to your local atheist group and see if they can get in touch with some of the higher ups, basically.
Okay. I'll just go around my hosts for their final thoughts. Mortimer?
No, just thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah. Sheila?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for coming on. I really enjoyed getting a chance to talk to both of you and find out your views on everything. It's great.
All right, and Kitch.
Yeah, it was really interesting and fascinating discussion. Thanks, guys, for coming on. It was very interesting to hear about the work you guys do in Denmark.
Yep. And very quickly, Christian's got one last thing to soapbox to get on.
If you are part of an atheist group or not part of an atheist group and want to know more about what you can do about circumcision, feel free to email me at Christian with CH at atheist.dk. Atheist without H. Yes, it's ironic. But yeah, if you want to know more, contact me, or if you're a part of international group, feel free. Christian at atheist.dk.
Yeah,
Christian with CH.
Yeah, we'll put the email address in the video description when it gets uploaded.
Très bien.
All right, and thank you everyone for coming along. We enjoyed the show. We're back next week where we have Peter Bogasi, and am I pronouncing his name right? I don't know.
I think so.
Yeah, he's the author of a new book that's kind of gotten quite a lot of coverage, a manual for creating atheists, and if I believe right, Lundy's been reading it over and trying out the techniques. So all look forward to that, and we shall see everyone same time next week. So everyone have a really good weekend wherever you are.
Thank you.
Take care.
Have a good weekend.
At last. Yes! Oh, but it's close enough. I'm always getting it wrong. So welcome to the show, guys. And I think, Sheila, you were going to start with the introductory questions.
in a sorry. Oh, that was echo.
Cal, it's
Okay, sorry. Yeah, that's it sorted now. Okay, just please, everyone hold on. I'm going to try and sort this out. Is this any better, guys? Can someone speak, just so I can...
Okay, testing. Let's see if I can hear myself on the stream.
Is that coming through for everyone?
Not on my end. I'll see if I can hear
There's
myself.
a hell of a deal. It does seem, I do seem to be getting a level from everyone now. There's no echo for anyone, is there?
no, not currently.
No echo.
No, not here.
Okay, I think I've got it back now.
Oh, yeah, it's back.
Is it back?
Yeah, I can hear the stream.
Oh, the stream. Sorry, I thought you said the echo was back.
No, the stream is back.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that, everyone. That's a slight technical difficulty. I don't know what no one probably heard what Kurt was talking about there, so I'm very sorry about that, Kurt.
Yeah, you asked me to pause.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's because the audio was
Do you want me to
not
shut
working.
up? What?
No. Yeah, it's just a technical problem. It's the internet, sort of. So I think we'll just go back. Shall we get Kurt just to... Can you go over what you just said quickly? I'm sorry about that.
From what?
The last Sheila, you can just ask your last question because no one heard it, I think.
Yeah, from the beginning.
Yeah.
You want it from the beginning again? Okay. Well, just kind of a quick overview about what the Danish Atheist Society was, and you know what you guys.
All right. Good evening, everyone. It is the 23rd of November 2013. It's 7 p.m. here in the UK, 8 p.m. Central European Time, and 2 p.m. Eastern Time in the States. This is Trolling with Logic, a weekly. I don't know what kind of show. We'll say skeptic and secular. That seems good right now. Just a quick announcements to get out of the way first. We say we are live on Google Hangouts. If you have a problem with the stream, you can also watch us trollingwithlogic.com/live. There's also an IRC chat room. The server is irc.sinirc.net, and the channel is Trolling with Logic, all one word. You're also free to call in. You can call in by adding the Skype contact Trolling with Logic. Send me a little PM with a guess to your question, and we'll try and get you on in time. And also remember, by calling in, you grant us permission to use your likeness, as the show is recorded for later upload, so no funny stuff with the DMCAs. And the recording of this show is public domain, so feel free to copy, distribute, share this show in part or whole, just as long as you link back to us as a courtesy. So I think that's all the legal stuff out the way. So very quickly, a little bit of a reduced panel currently. We do, and somebody's echoing. I don't know who that was. I was echoing, but it's gone now. And just to say, we've got a little bit of a reduced panel right now. We do have some of the regulars. They will be along shortly. So very quickly, introducing back Sheila. How are you doing? And back for the second week in a row for you, Kitch. Welcome back. So we'll very quickly introduce our two guests. We have the president of, I'm not going to try and pronounce their name in the native language because I'm just going to butcher it horribly, the Danish Atheist Society. Please welcome Kurt. And also, probably a lot of the TwL fans, you'll be familiar with Tilson or Christian. Again, I'm not going to try your full name because I'll probably miss. Yeah, I've seen it written down and I still can't figure it out. But you are the International Relations Officer. Please tell me I've got it right.
Ahmed,
No, no. Carry on.